Hi, everyone. My name is Jess, and I am the creator of the Sunshine Express, which is a new addiction recovery or sobriety path methodology, step system, if you will. And it has 7 steps in them. And I want to start talking about what addiction is in modern terms and contemporary terms. Like, this is 2025. I am recording this in October of 2025. And let's talk about addiction in the here and now, right? So I'm 35 years old and I got sober when I was 27. So that was back in 2017. My sobriety date is June 4th, 2017. And I had a lot of fun partying. I'm not going to lie. Like, I had a blast. Like, I was a college party girl. I started drinking in high school. And for the most part, other than some blackouts and some, you know, throwing up, like, I was having a great time. And I feel like in the mainstream addiction recovery models, we have to sit there and say that we suffered. Like, we suffered and suffered and suffered and suffered. And truth be told, that wasn't my story. And so I didn't really relate to the people who were like, my life was so miserable, blah, blah, blah. I was like, my life wasn't that miserable. It really, it wasn't up until the last year where I went fucking psycho. And that was because of weed and not alcohol. Um, and so I want to talk about what I think addiction is and what I think recovery can and should be. And how this all relates to the DC method. If you go to www.thesunshine.express, there's my model of addiction recovery. I call it the DC method. It's 7 steps in total. And it just talks about stuff that's weighing you down and letting it go, and then expanding and creating and leveling up and enjoying life. When went through the 12-step program, and when I went through refuge recovery and smart recovery and DBT therapy and CODA and SLAW and ACA and all those, when I did all those programs, one of the things that I knew was missing was being joyful, being creative, being happy. One of the issues that I really took with both of the programs is that it led me to peace, which peace is beautiful and happiness is a byproduct of inner peace, right? I'm not arguing with that. But I was like, where's the laughter? Where's the joy? Like, when I was at the bar, it was super fun. When I was going to the raves, it was super fun. When I was going to music festivals and beer festivals and wine, blah, 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 it was super fun. I was laughing. So why weren't the recovery rooms filled with laughter like that? That was my big thing. And I'll go into this in other videos about how I was in consumer advertising and marketing since I was 15 years old. So I've had a 20-year career, and I'll go into like the identity shift that I think addiction recovery really is. I say that addiction recovery is more like an identity crisis than anything else. We remove a thing that was harming us, right? But it's so embedded deeply into like our psyche and our persona of who we are that we've kind of lost ourselves in it. So when we go into addiction recovery, it's, yes, talking about how we used and stuff like that, and sorting that stuff out, but that's really only like a month of it. What's the next, 50 years of your life? Once you've figured out, yeah, I have a problem, okay, I need to do other things, but what are those other things that you're doing? You're really rebuilding your identity. And so I tend to think, if you look at the DC method, that the 12-step program or refuge recovery is the first 3 steps of the DC method, which is detach, which is letting go of things that are weighing you down, the void state, which is like kind of this uncomfortable space that you sit in while you like let residual fears and backlogged emotions come up. So you have to like sit there and meditate and kind of just feel your feelings. And this is where most people relapse, in the void state, because they don't know what's coming next, right? And then the next step is to expand. And you start expanding, you start broadening your horizons, start doing new things, right? And so what I think the 12 steps and refuge recovery, which is the Eightfold Noble Path in Buddhism, what those 2 methodologies do is fantastic for the first 3 steps of my methodology. And then the next one is, what do you do after you start expanding? where's the laughter? Where's the joy? Where's the fun? Right? You have to have this balance of deep shadow inner work and also joy and laughter, or else why are you doing either one of them? Right? We talk about duality and then going into non-duality, right? You have to have the yin and the yang, the black and the white, to then form and fold into like this single understanding of what life is. And it just is. You just are. We just be, right? And it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. We just know that it is. So so the last four steps of the DC method, after you detach, go through the void state, and then you start expanding, you start doing new stuff, is that you get inspired. You and then you create stuff, and then you level up in self-mastery, in artistic mastery, in career mastery, in financial mastery, whatever you are working on in whatever dimension, and then you enjoy life. And then you rinse repeat that methodology time and time and time again. And I say that you can do it thousands of times per day, because you really can. It's based on the breath. So detach is exhale, inhale is expand. Okay, detach is create, or sorry, exhale is create, inhale is enjoy. Right? In 2 breath cycles, you can do the DC method. Super easy. And when I get further into talking about these individual subjects, I want to just bring forward the fact that we don't have to do things the old way. And I understand AA and the 12-step system as this really, really powerful entity in the recovery system because of the community. It's because there are people there, and this network is so large because people are just there to listen. If people just showed up in a support group setting 24 hours a day and you had access to that, and there was like light structure, and you could just say whatever you needed to say given a specific topic, like, it doesn't really matter what steps you do. It's just you have a safe space to vent out your feelings and then move forward with your life. It does help if you're going through an identity crisis or any sort of, mental health crisis, to have a structure to get back to center, to get back to balance. But past that, it's your life. I tell people, I say this often, which is, when you break your wrist, you're not in a cast for 30 years. People who have cancer can overcome cancer. So why are we in addiction recovery for 30 years? At a certain point, you do recover. You don't have to be in therapy for dozens of years. You don't have to do that, because if you're like me, I'm 35, but I did the bulk of my recovery when I was 27, 28. I only had 28 years of life to go back. I could have only had so much trauma. And I mean, like, run of the mill trauma, like, yeah, dysfunctional stuff growing up. But at a certain point, you do the work, and then you get to the root of the issue, and then you overturn it, and then you learn how to manage your emotions. You learn the emotions, you learn the story, and then you move on. And then it's just a part of your past. And you go, wow, I'm so grateful because now I'm this person, even though, I don't, like, abuse and assault and stuff like that is never something that I find excusable or anything that anyone needs to be grateful for. But how I turned out was, I was like, okay, cool. I have this really dope story that I can go around helping people with. And I love that for me. And I'm 8 years sober, and I haven't gone to a recovery meeting in years. And I don't need to, because I figured out who I was, and I figured out what I was, and I figured out that I just needed to remember who I could be. And so while we walk through all of this new way of hearing about addiction recovery and the way that I've explored it, I just want you to remember, like, keep an open mind and don't stick to anything super rigid, right? Because you're always expanding. You're always learning something new. Okay, your levels of consciousness are rising every single time you learn something new. Okay, the greater awareness that you have, means that the way that you operate it's eventually going to change. It's like the iOS update, right? It's like you're just getting a system update. Okay. But as you're learning new things, as you're expanding your emotional vocabulary, as you're healing your trauma, you're also expanding your container of existence. You're expanding the ways that you can live. You are opening up yourself to the possibilities of the infinite. Okay. And I talk about quantum physics in this whole methodology, saying we're in superpositions. Okay. You right now, by being sober, anything is possible. Okay. Anything is possible. Right? You just have to latch on to a reality. Where do you want to go in life? Okay, we can quantum jump. Let's do the DC method. Detach whatever was weighing you down, let go of it. Okay, walk towards it. Start walking towards it. Okay, it's terrifying. Of course, it's terrifying. It's new. Why wouldn't it be? But you're not powerless against a new reality you want to live in. You're not powerless against infinite, beautiful possibilities of what your life could turn out to be. Why would you be scared of that? That's insane. Don't be scared. At any moment in time, you can choose to walk away from any addiction. And we're talking about not only alcohol, not only weed, online shopping, red pill content, social media, your drugs, your cocaine, your narcotics, Molly, weed, psilocybin, whatever it is. Okay? Porn, whatever it is. At any moment in time, you are a particle in the universe. And you are just buzzing around until you observe yourself, until you get that moment of self awareness and you go, wait a minute, literally anything could happen. Today, I could walk away from my addiction forever. Why couldn't it be like that? By the way, if you are chemically addicted to something like alcohol or heroin, anything like that, that actually needs a physical detox, please go seek medical help before trying to walk away from the addiction, because you could actually harm yourself if you are going through things like delirium tremens and whatnot. But my point being is that there are people who quit smoking cold turkey. That could be you. Okay. Or maybe you can quit for one day, right? That's how it starts. And all we're doing really is we're healing our nervous system, and we're regenerating the gray matter in our brain so our neural networks can be stronger. And then we're just taking away the old neural networks that we don't like, and we're creating habits and making new ones. That's it. That's all this is. We don't have to sit here in pain and resentment and guilt and repeat our war stories over and over and over again. We don't have to do that. You can if you want, but we don't have to do that. So I hope you guys get a lot out of my perspective on addiction recovery, what it can be, what it should be. I know I should anything, but one of the taglines, or one of the things, like the basis of the DC method in totality, is that addiction recovery should be more fun than drugs. Sobriety should be more fun than drugs. Because what are we really competing against in sobriety? We're competing against we're competing against synthetic dopamine. How can you beat a chemical, a program that has been genetically, scientifically modified to get you addicted to it? You have millions and billions of dollars in marketing focus groups, right? These people are watching human behavior to the T to figure out how to get into your psyche. And you have to say no. You have, is it your willpower, or is Is society setting you up for failure? Like, what is it? I don't know. Okay. So let's go through this together and really understand what blame should we be carrying, because I'm going to tell you it's not that much. like we got like 2% of the blame, right? Okay. We didn't ask for billboards along the highway shouting beer ads at us as we're driving. Okay. Every time you see a billboard, that's a neural pathway starting to be dug into your brain that this beer brand is okay. This beer brand is your friend. This beer brand can be trusted. Okay. And that's how it seeps. It's insidious. It totally is. But let's talk about it and let's deconstruct everything that we can about it so we have more of the information and more of the data to make something as terrifying and horrifying and scary as addiction recovery be the most fun shit on the face of the planet, minus a few feelings. Okay. I don't think that punitive, self-deprecating self-deprecating shit is the way. I don't believe in that. And I want you to have fun during addiction recovery, especially the early time, because you haven't been around long enough to form the really fun, cool, new, sober memories. So it's really important for you to just get a handle of what's going on in your body so you avoid the times to relapse because you understand where you are. If you know that you're in the void state, then at least you can sit in that and know that, hey, expansion is coming, inspiration is coming, creation is coming. Don't worry. You just have to sit through the void, right? It makes it a lot easier if you know exactly what's coming next. Maybe you don't know in what form, but you know the concept and the idea and the feeling. Like, okay, I'm starting to go to the library more. I went into new shops today. I'm in expansion, right? I moved through the void pretty quickly that time around, but you know it's coming back. Okay, you'll sit in it again, but it'll be for a different reason. You're going to hop into a new level of consciousness and you're going to be there. And that's it. And that's all that it needs to be. So let's talk about this more in depth. I'll share with you guys my story of how I got sober. It's crazy. And it's really cool. And I think that it could revolutionize the way we get sober. It can be so fun and so easy. All right, y'all. Good night.